And hello, everyone. Welcome back. Big, massive hello to everyone here in Australia and around the world for all the viewers that will be watching this or in the later on. 'Cause I believe our UK comrades and some in the US now have already gone to bed. So if you do get to watch this later on, a massive hello from all the way down here in Australia. I'd like to also to acknowledge that I'm broadcasting here from Bendigo, which is on the land of the Dja Dja Wurrung, and I'd like to acknowledge the people, the First Nation, and their elders, their past, present, and future, and also to acknowledge that their struggle was a struggle for their country and against a foreign invader, and now that their struggle is now incorporated in a much bigger one against imperialism. And I will obviously say that it's more imperative now that working class, oppressed nations, and other poor people and like-minded allies, we are now united in a much broader struggle now against our common foe. Well, I just want to say also too, Happy New Year to everybody. And it certainly has been a trying time throughout 2021. And obviously, COVID has been usually the top number one issue. At the time, we've been through lockdowns and mandates and whatever else has been thrown at us at the whole system wants to throw at us at the time. But we've managed to get through so far. And I'm going to be personally quite frank and personally honest, I'm glad actually 2021's out of the way. I really, by the time I came around to Christmas, I just wanted to have a break. I'm still on break at the moment. I won't be back to work to the 17th of January, and I'm just enjoying myself. So that gives me the opportunity to actually do some lives as well, along with the lives I do with Dust James every weekend. And obviously, the link is below. I've actually put Dust James's link in the comment descriptions below. Please subscribe, please share his channel far and wide to everybody, and invite everyone to come along and let them subscribe and share far and wide as well. The other thing also too, I also included Caleb Orpin's channel and also the new Centre of Political Innovation, the USA YouTube channel. Yes, they've got their very own one set up as well now on YouTube. So I'll put them all in description. So please to subscribe. There's some excellent stuff that will be broadcasted. Well, obviously, during the break, I had a great. Well, so far, the break's been good. I've actually managed to away myself and my partner. We went up to see my mum and stepdad in Sydney. We had a lovely Christmas day together, and then obviously went to see my dad in Orange later on. And it was good to catch up with him. We had a good time, good quality time. One thing I understand, parents are getting on, and obviously parents don't last forever. So any quality time, I hadn't been able to actually spend that much time last Christmas or the previous one before last, obviously with COVID and restrictions, and it was actually nice to actually catch up with them. It's been a lovely time, and also to see a couple of friends on the way through. We actually had a look around some beautiful country out there at the moment, and obviously for those of us in Australia, certainly we are lucky to have a beautiful country, and there was a lot to see as well. New Year was that was more of a quiet affair. We didn't do too much. Actually enjoyed watching a history of the 1980s hits and also the Blues Brothers, an all-time classic. So that was my New Year's Eve, along with a few drinks, and that was about it. I was out to it by 12 o'clock anyway, so we didn't want to do too much because of obviously this whole Omicron spread as well. I'm not too keen of catching it myself, to be perfectly honest. And although I've been triple jabbed now. I had my booster shot about 2 weeks before Christmas. Besides the point, I still don't want that. I'm not trying to sound selfish, but obviously, like with anything, I don't think anyone out there desires catching any sort of disease or virus or any type of other illness as well. It's either related to it or not. Which actually what's a little bit of talk about this, what's been going on lately. And I think I've been asked a few questions what was going on in Australia with the mandates and all these big rallies and such. And look, primarily there was a lot of anger, a lot of economic anger as well. A lot of people were economically worse off. Like, for example, in Sydney, when they locked a lot of the western suburbs down, southwestern suburbs, primarily working class migrant communities, and they had the military out and patrolling with the police. It was a real hard lockdown, and I think also too they suffered badly economically as well. And besides that flows on to you emotionally and mentally. And obviously there was a lot of frustration, angers out that in Sydney, but also too here in Victoria, we've had about 6 or 7 lockdowns. Don't quote me on that number. There were so many, I'm starting to forget about them. I'm not trying to be funny on that, but it really is. I think after a while, people are suffering out there one way or the other. So they had that initial anger. Obviously, there was it escalated from September onwards even further, and unfortunately, that we had that incident where a union office was attacked as well, in which obviously it was. A few there was some members turn up with some genuine concerns, but unfortunately, our arguments got hijacked or led to believe by the spurious groups that had nothing to do with the union movement, or actually they're outright anti-union anyway, far right groups, etc. And a lot of the rallies that have been happening, anti-lockdown, anti-mandate, anti-vaccine, a lot of them originally, a lot of those people originally started off and organised those ones are not actually organising them now. Funny enough, I was reading a comment by a well-known activist, Tom Tanuki, and I've got a lot of time for him. Actually, he's met with a few of these people, obviously, away this everything's drifted or headed, and unfortunately, a lot of these places have been co-opted by a lot of ultra-right parties, such as the United Australia Party, but also the far right's also using it to looking at a good opportunity to recruit as well. And what they're trying to do is tap into people's anger and fears and concerns, and it is a fear and concern. And of course, understandably, they do have fears and concerns of where everything's heading, and for their own selves and for everyone else, for that matter. And look, obviously there were counter rallies to that as well. Some anti-fascist rallies organising against it, and it has caused a polarising effect. I'm actually just on that comment. What I want to talk about is also the division that's caused amongst, especially working class people, but the community at large as well. My own experience. I mean, I've dealt with members. Some that didn't want to get the vaccine for their own reasons. I won't share them here. I don't think they appreciate me personally sharing their views on things, but I will say they had some genuine concerns about it, and fair enough. There was only one or two that were completely anti-vax, and unfortunately, they got caught up in this whole QAnon, this whole QAnon business, and so they said, but as I said. Most of it was all out of concerns about the vaccine, its health implications, etc. And look, them were hesitant. They weren't anti-vax at all. They wanted to actually see if there's something else better coming along, etc. But when the government mandated for everyone here, it certainly caused that a lot of angst, caused that division. And also, too, I have to say, it's also caused division in a lot of families out there where you've got parents won't speak to children and vice versa. And I'd hate to be around some Christmas Day. I won't be some Christmas days. I hope everyone did have a good Christmas, because I think some of the dinner time or lunchtime discussions would have been very interesting as well, to say the least. Hopefully, people can sort of accept. Look, sometimes we're not going to always agree to everything, so we have to agree to disagree and move on. But it had caused a lot of division as well. And look, I personally know a few people that didn't want to get the vaccine, and some did hesitantly get it. But still, at the end of the day, I mean, they're a worker. They're not my enemy, and we're trying to do an endeavour to, keep us united as much as possible against a common foe. And the other thing as well, we're seeing that. And look, I've actually known a few people who haven't had a vaccine at all. There's very few. I do know that have, but there's many more out there, obviously. But look, I'll treat them with a bit of respect, as causes. My main issue, though, I think with some of these people involved in the anti-vax, anti-mandate, was when they started attacking workers in shops and supermarkets and hardware shops, and abusing them, threatening them, actually physically, also physically assaulting them as well. Look, I mean, if anyone's watching this that have been probably sympathetic or been on some of those rallies, look, don't go around doing that. I mean, seriously, it's not those workers' faults. They're just carrying out a lawful instruction, right? It is their workplace. As soon as you enter a supermarket or a hardware shop or even just a simple corner store or a coffee shop, that is a workplace. It's not a public domain. It is a workplace. There's certain laws and that should be protecting workers. And by rights, if you've got that grievance, we sure take it up with senior management at at Coles or Woolworths, or take it up with the government. Don't take it out on the workers. That I think that's something that's under my skin. And also too, look, I'll be perfectly honest with you too. That attack on that union office, that was disgraceful. I'll make that loud and clear. I mean, look, I had a bit of mixed feelings about some of the anti-vax and anti-mandate rallies and stuff, and sure, and I shared some of those concerns at times. I mean, I wasn't pro-mandate. I don't think you can really mandate yourself out of a pandemic, but it is what it is. We just had to get on with it. But as well, I don't think anyone should be forced to go and get a vaccine. But reality is, and when doing that, if you had an issue with a particular person, a secretary or whatever, well, those members have to deal with that. That's what the union structure do. It's democratic, and if they've got an issue with the secretary, by all means, they can run in the next election against them if they want. But to go ahead and do that, causing all that damage to a union office, which forced it to close. Mind you, there was a lot of staff that was from that got COVID. And on that, it's actually trying to shut a union down completely to try and represent its members at both at the workplace, in the courts, in the commission, or workers' compensation issue or any particular issue. And that is completely sorry. I have got no time to tolerate that sort of stuff either. And for those of us arrested in the union movement, obviously got our backs up. And I mean, the air was thick; it was toxic out there. I mean, I'm on a personal thing. I mean, like if I go down to the supermarket with my union gear, just be after work, want to get something from the shop before I go home. On the way home, I'm looking over my shoulder. Man, look at me, and I'm just waiting for someone to start. I mean, I shouldn't have to live like that. No one should. And then, force me in a position where we have to defend ourselves. And then, obviously, having threats to our regional trades halls, our union halls, and threats to the Victorian trades halls. And there was damage done to them as well. And someone actually did chalk up, fortunately, there was no damage, but did chalk up our local trades hall here. And there were threats to many others. You can understand why we would get our back up and then just like, right, no, enough's enough. We had enough of that. And that's not right. If you've got an issue, then bring it up with a particular secretary of the union and do it in a proper, mature and presentable fashion. Don't have to carry on like that. But obviously, I had no time for it. I understand there is some anger out there amongst members. I get that. I'm a member myself. I've been a member for many, many, many years as well, along with being an organiser. And look, I understand you can get upset. But there's certain ways, there's certain proper channels you can deal with the issues, not have to go through that. And it certainly did, as I said, out there, the atmosphere being toxic, having to look over our shoulders for our own safety and that, and having to look at measures to protect ourselves. I mean, we shouldn't have to go living that way either, not in a country like Australia. But unfortunately, those who did, well, there you go. There's fascism in action. If you want us to see it in a physical force attacking a union office and attacking those members, and even those members that were protecting the office and the officials, like the organisers and that, there you go. Yeah, that's it in fashion. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just anger. There you go. There's fascism in action there, and which actually funny. Well, it's not funny, which inspired a lot of far right groups overseas, especially in Europe. It happened in Italy. Inspired them to go around attacking and burning down union offices and assaulting a lot of trade unionists. So that's that. Just beware. This is the consequences of their actions, and I think sometimes they should have a good look at themselves in the mirror. Obviously, as I said, if you've got issues and there's ways to address them, and any concerns, there's way to address them. But to go around doing that to a union office, which was not responsible for the whole COVID crisis in the first place. None of the unions were. We didn't create it. No one loves what's going on. I haven't met one person that loves what's going on. No one loves wearing a face mask. No one loves getting a jab. No one loves being in lockdowns and mandates. I mean, okay, there might be someone that's completely different, and there usually is in this country. There's always someone out there being completely different. But I'd like to meet that person one day. But however, no one loves it. And I think we've just got to keep that understanding. No one likes the situation at all. But we need to look at something on the way forward. And go on that too. I'll just say a little bit further on mandates. What they were trying to, the message they're putting out there. They were saying, well, want to get everyone back to work, everyone get things moving again. Also, too, didn't want to overburden our hospitals or send our hospitals into crisis. Well, the way it's all spreading now, especially in New South Wales, those hospitals are on knife edge now, ready to collapse. Now, the question is then, why aren't they building more hospitals then? Why can't they do that? That'd be a great project. Instead of throwing money at the oil and gas industry, natural gas, and throwing an open checkbook to military and everything else, well, why don't they actually invest into a lot more hospitals and bring back the proper nurse to patient ratios and invest into actually more doctors and training people up as doctors and registered nurses, because most of the medical staff now are overworked. They're burning out. A lot of them will be leaving the profession, and unfortunately, it's going to move things further into a crisis. So I like it when, irrespective of what political persuasion a government is, or what level of government, when they mention about that, about our health system, well, about it being overburdened, well, the question should be, why aren't you building more hospitals? Why aren't you publicly advertising it? No, publicly investing into it, and also too cutting the private sector out altogether. There should be major investments into hospitals so we can handle a crisis like this. Why isn't there? And why isn't there then cancellation of debt, personal debt? People that were locked down for a long time, they're probably in debt, they're probably on the verge of losing their house. Why isn't there then both state and federal governments moving in and says, right, we're cancelling debt. No one's to pay it back anymore, and then take that burden off them. Because what's been happening, and I'll pick this newspaper up before, it was before Christmas. Look at the headline: "Nation faces a decade of deficits and no wage joy." And I was having a read through that, and what they're basically saying, inflation's going to go through the roof. And that's going to eat into any wage rise that workers justifiably do fight for and receive as well. That's going to eat into it and make our cost of living pressures on working class people and poor people and migrant community even harder for them to continue. But what's also too keep into account too, what's you're seeing the price of fuel escalating. AdBlue is now in a shortage. And for those of you overseas, what AdBlue is, it's a particular. It's not an actual fuel. It's I believe it's a pollution control measure for semi-trailers and big triple road trains, etc. It came in the last few years. I'm led to believe it's not there to fill up your four-wheel drive with. It's not a cheap fuel, but it's there to actually keep pollution or exhaust fumes down to a minimum. But obviously there's a shortage of urea we can't get from China at the moment, so they're trying to solve it. Typical capitalist problem a capitalist solution to a capitalist problem. They're trying to source it elsewhere instead of actually coming to think about, well, why aren't we actually manufacturing it here? Instead of have to rely on from overseas. We're an island nation, for Christ's sakes, and we are dependent now. This is the problem when we are dependent on other countries, especially for a fuel supply. And there's also too a shortage of trucks. So truck drivers now, not even the industry, but also there's going to be a shortage of trucks because they can't get the AdBlue there. So you can just imagine then when you're trying to purchase goods from a supermarket and there's empty shelves, you can't get it because it's either locked in a warehouse or else sitting on the docks there because there's no one able to transport it at all. You can just see another catastrophe heading our way when the least thing we need at the moment. But as usual, a capitalist response to a capitalist problem is, we'll try and source it somewhere else. Instead of having a good look at it itself. Throughout this whole COVID episode, it shows how Australia overall its whole economy is really bad, and this should be a very big concern. Just how dependent we are from imports now, where we got about 8%. Our economy is about 8% of that's manufacturing, where in the 60s was up to over 40%. I figure that. You'd think we'd be actually producing most of our own stuff, so that which will then allow us to have a strong domestic economy, but two, also to stop being reliant on other countries to pull us through. But three, also discussion about national sovereignty and national security as well, which we shouldn't be afraid to have those discussions. So that's just something where we are facing at the moment. I don't think when I was reading that article, they're just hoping, well, everyone should hope that an economic miracle happens, all of a sudden, so everything improves. It's just like if this magical hand of the market just appears out of nowhere and fixes everything. Let's face it, that is complete crap. The market will not fix anything at all. It's not there for us. It's there for the capitalist class once and for all. We live under a system where profits are in command. And that's all they're concerned about. And they're actually going back, I'll say something a little bit controversial about mandates. While a lot of us were against it as well, it wasn't about actually, because of our health. It was just a matter of so we can go and get back to work and spend money. That's what it came down to. And we've seen a catastrophe now that's in New South Wales where the Premier came out, go out there and spend your money, support those small businesses, etc., etc. And look what happens now. Cases are, doubling up every day. And believe there's now about 500,000 cases already. We've got that, and possibly a lot more out in the community now in Australia, but predominantly New South Wales, Victoria's following suit. So it just comes to show you, was it genuinely about our health? No, it's about trying to keep the system of capitalism going. The other thing as well, it just comes to show you, though, the capitalist class too, imperialists actually, it shows what they think of us, what they think of our health. We're surplus to requirement. They don't care how many people die. Obviously, they've kicked a lot of the workers out from the means of production anyway. Through automation, etc. So they probably look at a population where you're surplus to requirement. You're going to get it anyway. If you don't want to get it tough, if you don't want to get a jab tough, you're basically left out in the cold. And that's it. That's where what we're looking at the moment. And just what's interesting as well. Caleb mentioned about this the other day. I've had this book for a while, and I might mean to actually sit down and read it. It's called Imperialism, The Evil Social Revolution of the Proletariat by Upton Bra from the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninists. I would strongly suggest to go to their website. This is where you can order these books from. And he's actually an excellent author. And there's a series of articles from Locke, one of their publications. And actually, they were talking about the pharmaceuticals mafia, the consolidation in the drugs industry, and it came out in one of their magazines in the May-June of 2003. And I think we've got to actually have a look at the mergers and acquisitions, but the role of major pharmaceutical companies that really can I could read the whole article, but I'll be here forever and a day. But what the message is basically they're not interested in curing us and not having a health system that actually will properly treat us and that we can live better lives. They require us to be continually sick so we can buy further their pharmaceuticals. There's no conspiracy. It's what they do. They don't. When you're in pain, you either subscribe painkillers or you can buy over-the-shelf painkillers. But that's just there to kill pain. So they actually look at the root cause of the problem, what's causing that pain, and okay, what can we do to fix it? It's just there to keep you going. I just threw that one out there. So just keep an account too. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not like that. I told you I've already had my third jab already, a booster shot. So it's not like that at all. But I think it's something worthwhile for us, especially to study and look at further and put something on the way forward. And I think coming through this, and this is something out of all this, that's been happening with all these rallies that's been happening out through all the capital cities. They call all sorts of things, from freedom rallies to the anti-mandate ones, or whatever you want to name them. The fact is, we really seriously need to put a proper alternative, a proper working class solution on the way forward about this because as I did just touch on earlier in the piece, there has been a lot of those arguments hijacked by the right for their own dubious methods, and obviously that's what they do. History's shown us that they play on people's fears and ongoing concerns about and also instability. And if people are going to be facing unemployment, poverty, and other economic unsurety, well, of course, if someone comes along like that and starts speaking their language and thinking, and then we're all of a sudden going to go, this is where it sounds right to us, without actually getting into the problem. It's the system itself, the system of profits in command. That's the problem. And I think, some of the language they've been using is certainly a concern. I think we've got to be actually come up with a proper working class solution for the way forward, and probably put something concrete in place. And on that, I just want to say we are organising the political think tank here, based on the Centre of Political Innovation. We'll call it something different here for Australia. We had a meeting with Caleb before Christmas, and we've got to understand what works for us in Australia, and we want to actually put some key points up there, like a key plan to put forward to all parties, but to everyone out there. This is the way forward. We think we should everything move. Because one thing about our health system, we want a genuine health system where it's free, universal health care for all, where everyone is, regardless of what your age, where you're from, what you look like, you're still going to be guaranteed a proper health system, and you will be looked after. And when you get a response like a situation like a pandemic, for example, COVID, well, we have then the ability and the means to deal with it properly without having to actually have this knee-jerk reactions for locking people up in hotels, locking communities down. Remember too, actually, someone raised a very interesting point about China. Well, China had lockdowns. Yes, China's had lockdowns, big and some massive lockdowns. Guess what? They're on top of that COVID for being on for a very long time. For the last 2 years, they've been right on top of it. They've actually been compared to the percentage and how many people have actually got COVID in China. They've got a population of 1.4 billion people and growing. The economy is really going strong. It's now outpaced the US. And on top of that, they've had better ways to deal with COVID. Yes, they've locked down, but the thing is, when they've had to lock down communities, they've looked after it. They're providing free food, free assistance of everything. And they don't have to owe anything back, like have to pay any debts or anything like that back. They actually are looked after. And I was was with my partner last night watching the ABC News, and of course, being typical of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, they've got to go on their anti-China spiel every news segment, and obviously they said, "Oh, look at this," but well, look at this. They've had to lock down and do this. This what they're not telling you. That's a socialist system, not a capitalist system. They're it's a socialist system where the banks, the major industries, the mines, everything else is all organised on around a central plan, and which is what they've been doing, a properly planned economy, not one where unlike us, where we live on profits are in command, when profits reign supreme, and so the difference is you are actually well looked after in a socialist country that has to lock down, where here in some place like here in Australia, well, you're sort of like, well, we'll give you a little bit of welfare for a while, but that's going to end. You're pretty much on your own from there on. And also, while you're at it, we'll just alienate the hell out of you as well and drive you completely crazy. And bad luck to you if you do have a small business. Bad luck to you if you lost your job. Oh, well, there's plenty of it out there. And as Morrison said, as our Prime Minister says about looking after the well-being of the country, he'll just turn around. Not his job. But obviously, okay, if it's not his job, then what he's doing there. So that's why it's vitally important. I think we've got to have this discussion about putting in a proper working class method for, and also show that the socialist countries do look after its population, unlike our countries like ourselves, where it's laissez-faire, free market profits reign supreme capitalism, and it just comes to show the contrary. They also, too, the ABC showed something where someone that was supposed to be locked down turned up to a shop and he copped a hiding for some workers there. Well, really, by rights, I'm not saying, look, having I'm not going to actually encourage people to go out and hit people, but assault people. But look, those workers were put into a dubious situation. Someone was in lockdown, suspected with COVID, turned up at their shops, everyone else puts them in danger. Oh, well, bugger, we'll give you some work, good old working class justice and give you a touch up, get back in, go back home, and we'll get you some stuff there. And that's what that was all about. The ABC goes, oh, we can't fix any violence. Oh, how terrible. And trying to say that China is this deep, horrible monster that doesn't look after its population. Well, what they're not telling you is actually they are looking after its population very well, and it leaves us well behind and makes us looking completely stupid. I can tell you what, if anyone thinks we're actually, if this situation gets worse here, we're going to be well looked after by our respective governments, regardless of their political persuasion. I have the Sydney Harbour Bridge up for sale for $10. Yeah, go figure that one. So going on to it, I think that's why we need to have these good discussions and these studies as well. And I don't think we should be afraid to have question things at times as well. There are obviously comrades out there, I know, are questioning actually the point of having a vaccine as well, and that's perfectly fine. I think what's mostly important, we keep it above board, keep it mature, and presentable as well, and look at all the facts about the way forward. But I think we need to put a proper socialist or communist, Marxist or working class plan on the way forward, because obviously that's what's we're actually needed for, and a fighting one as well. And one of the demands, part of that, I will say this, one of the demands we should be putting forward now is a government of action that will fight for working families. A government of action that will fight for the working people of this country, not one that will just go and just promise us a few things and throw some crumbs here and just all it is about talking about the previous government or trying to attack the current government. That's not what we want. We actually want affirmative action and some real plan of action as well, so everyone is taken care of as a society, because this whole division that's created out there over the last 2 years. It's been done deliberately too, I'm led to believe. It's been done deliberately to keep us divided and fighting amongst ourselves. And it has gotten to a personal level. Like I said, it's actually split families. Said I would hate to be in some of those dinner tables at Christmas time for some of those families who are trying to heal, because and it is a tragedy in that sense. We should not have ever had to come to that under that bill. And look, it's one thing about changing a government, but it's a system that needs to change. Right? And that's what we've got to understand. It's a system that needs changing, and we've got to put our plans forward. We are, as I said, once again, we are forming the think tank here as well, and that's what it is. I'll make that loud and clear. It is not a party. It is not a party. It is a think tank. So if anyone thinks this is a party, well, wrong. It's not, and we haven't got it. We're not going to be structured as such in that, because at the moment, the way we look at it, it's not a party that the working class needs. We need to get a lot of education. We need to get out of the movement and into the masses. There's a lot of important work to do. We are heading into an economic catastrophe here. There's got climate change that's thrown into there as well. You've got viruses. You've got God knows what else is thrown at us, and the possibility of war. So we have a lot to do, a lot of work to do, and that's why it's imperative that we have to get out of the movement and get into the masses and start talking with them and get them organised and help them and empower them to start taking matters into their own hands and in order to change the course of history here in Australia. Because obviously, if we're still going to continue down the path we're going at the moment, well, the old saying was socialism or barbarism, and I think, well, if we're going to continue down what we're doing, well, barbarism's on the rise, and God knows what that will look like. But I'd hate to say it, I would not want to be around if that happens to be the case. So that was my rant for the day. I just wanted to, it was good to actually touch base with everyone. We will also too, just from a further announcement, we will also too be going back to our live studies for We Are the Builders Australia. Come the end of this month, we will be back again, and obviously Nate and Helen, but many others out there who wish to do, other Australian comrades. We will be looking to look at some new literature. We finished off with Peru Libre just before Christmas. That was excellent. I highly recommend actually downloading it. You can just need to Google it. I think you can download it through PDF. That certainly is excellent, and it actually gave us as a foundation or something to work from that we may be able to develop here for Australia as well, a good program like that. So we will be looking at, we'll need to discuss what we're going to be studying it. Yeah, we might have actually talk about studying this whole book completely or even that chapter. Obviously, I'll let there'll be a collective decision what we're moving forward. And once again, this Sunday, our time at 12 o'clock, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 12 o'clock, myself and Dust James will be Working Class Revolt. I believe we have some guests. Dust, also too, a big shout out to Dust James. He's watching at this moment. Must be pretty damn late, but thanks, Dust. Appreciate your support. And I'll put your link in the descriptions below as well. And once again, yeah, please subscribe to his page. He's fantastic, a great comrade, certainly hard working as well. And obviously, it warrants everyone. He warrants everyone's support. I think what he does there, he's got a difficult job, being in the southern states of the US. Certainly, it's a tough area to organise, but certainly he's making headway. He's doing some great work, and he also does his own lives as well. And also anti-imperialist America. So, yeah. So once again, it'll be 12 p.m. our time here on the east coast of Australia this Sunday coming up, and that's what I want to make an announcement. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dust, but I believe we do have the students and youth from New America on there, so it'll be a great interview, and then every alternate Sunday will be a live study as well. And I'm looking forward, if any one of our Australian viewers here, also too, for either the weekend of the 22nd or the one after Australia Day, which I believe will be the 29th, our time. We're looking for someone, one of the First Nations people, to do a live interview with, obviously about Invasion Day. I think that'd be excellent. So, look, just shoot me a message either via Facebook or through this. Or through YouTube, and I'll see what I can do, or even Twitter, because this goes to my Twitter account as well. Shoot me a message, and I'll try and endeavour to get in touch. And I'm led to believe as well. That's right. That's pretty much what we've got covered here at the moment. We are, for otherwise, on a positive note, I have to admit, I think the struggle is going to get a lot more intense. There's going to be a lot more strikes this year than what we've had last year. Workers have had enough, I think. I'll just rephrase it. Workers have had enough pronto. And I think we're going to see a lot more strike actions. I will certainly talk a lot more on that because we will need everyone to get support. But when workers are on strike, that's definitely where we do need to be as well, right at the coalface of the struggle. Even if it's just a wages and conditions strike, it's still we need to be there and not just show support, but also help them further understand it's the system itself, the profits in command. And I think it's vitally important to build this working class unity across the board, both here in Australia but around the world. Because as I'm going to start winding this off, Karl Marx said something famous one time: "Workers of all countries unite." And I think we need to take a leaflet back out of that book again. We do need to unite. Well, look, comrades and friends and fellow workers, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to ramp this up now, and I will be doing a few more of these lives, hopefully. Don't hold me to it again before we go back to work on the 17th. And I still would like to try and do my own during time on this when a period where I'm not so busy, but I haven't been able to do. Well, I've been incredibly busy. That's all. So I wish you all the best, and I'd like to just end it off that. I'd just like to end it off here today with dare to struggle, dare to win. If you don't fight, you lose. Power to the people.